Okay, so today I'm going to be taking a closer look at the 1/4 scale or 18-inch Darth Maul figure from Diamond Select Toys from their Ultimate Quarter Scale line. This was a pretty unusual line from Diamond Select Toys, and during its relatively short lifespan, they produced a number of different figures for different lines and different licenses. They managed to take in properties such as Terminator, Robocop, Indiana Jones, and of course, Star Wars. The line definitely seems uneven with real highs and lows, and if you want an example of those, check out any pictures of the Kirk and Spock that were released as part of this line, and they look particularly thin and unhealthy looking. But their Star Wars line looks to be a lot better. They seem to have put a lot more care and attention into authenticity into these figures, and so today I'm going to take a closer look at one of the very best in the line, which is Darth Maul. So starting off with the packaging, it's a little underwhelming to be honest. It is basically taking the Clone Wars sort of style of packaging, because we can see the Clone Wars Stormtrooper at the very top of the packaging there, of course with the blue Star Wars logo. It's essentially one long open window display, which is quite tall and slim, and it just looks a little bit bland really. I think it's all the white, and there's not much colour or anything that's very specifically character defining about it, so it looks a little bit incongruous having Darth Maul in this packaging. It just doesn't look quite right. But once the figure is liberated from its packaging, wow, he certainly impresses, and it's a completely different ballgame because there's something instantly enchanting about this figure. Now, for starters, he's absolutely huge, of course, being in a quarter scale. But I think it's also a testament to the costume and the sculpting as well, because straight away you can see the likeness here is really solid. I think they've done an amazing job of the sculpt in the head, but also the paint apps. It just looks really lifelike and very creepy. Just look at those teeth. This looks really, really good, hyper detailed and very well painted. I really love with the hood that, of course, it is an articulated hood. There's a wire in there so you can shape it exactly how you want it. You pull it down and you can see all the horns, again nicely sculpted, well painted, lots of different washes going through that just to make them look more authentic, more lived in, which is great. And this goes right the way around the head, and this looks pretty much perfect. I have to say, this is a really solid paint job. It's absolutely amazing. But I also really love the costume and the material they've used in the costume. The texture of this is fantastic. The main central body is sort of ridged with a different material to the rest of the cotton that is on the sleeves, and it just feels really nice to the touch. Meanwhile, the sleeves are very nicely orchestrated, so you can hide his hands within those sleeves there, or you can have them hanging out there, which looks fantastic, and of course really authentic to what we see on screen, which is brilliant. And then of course he's got the hood. As I said, it is articulated with the wire in there that you can have it up or down, and it just looks really impressive. And already you have a diverse array of different looks you can have for this character, and it only gets better from there because of course the cloak is removable. When you open it up, you have his costume underneath, which again seems really layered with the various robes and different materials that they've used, particularly on the belt. They've used a sort of soft faux leather here, but also some metal studs in there, and it just looks really good. Each one is an individual strand, and it just looks, like I said, really authentic and just very textured, which is absolutely fantastic. And this just continues right the way throughout the figure. It doesn't matter which flap, which fold you're lifting up on the robe, there just seems to be more underneath. And there's such a lot of care and attention that's gone into just the costume, just the tailoring of this figure, which is immense and really just visually really impressive. The hands and gauntlets and the boots are all made of a solid plastic piece with some articulation built in to make sure that you can get some movements out of them. I think they're very nicely sculptured. I think again they add a little bit of an extra texture. Although it is plastic, it does look like it's leather, which is quite nice in terms of how it looks in the light, which is pretty cool, but obviously it is plastic and not a faux leather material, which would have been, even better. And the boots, once again, nicely sculpted. There's some little details in here, not much of a paint wash going through them at all. They are just a solid plastic piece, but again, looks very authentic. I haven't got a problem with this at all. And even here on the sleeves, they've got that ruffle just perfect. It just looks really good. Like I said, the attention to detail on the costume of this figure is absolutely spectacular, and I can't rave enough about it. But moving on to look at the articulation, he does have a ball jointed neck, so he can spin his head right the way around if you want him to. You have to persevere a little bit because he's quite a solid, sturdy figure, so you don't obviously want to snap that, but this works really, really well. He can look all the way around and he can look up and down, a really good range of motion there as well, which is fantastic. So no problems with the articulation in the head at all. He's also got ball jointed shoulders, of course, so his arms can kick all the way up and out there, which is fantastic. There is a pin swivel at the elbow as well, allowing his arm to rotate and of course bend in at 90 degrees, which is fantastic. He's also got a swivel at the wrist, so his hand can rotate all the way around there, and there is also a hinge there as well that lets it arc to one side. I wouldn't say it goes all the way both sides, but it does arc one way, which is great. He also has an upper ab joint there that allows him to swivel from side to side, but also bend forwards and backwards a little bit. Not a huge range of motion, but enough, and he can also lean from side to side a little bit as well. His legs kick out at the hips as well, so they are hinged hips that allow him to kick his leg right the way out there, which is fantastic. And of course he also has a upper thigh swivel as well, which is fantastic. So that means of course that his legs can also kick forwards a really healthy distance, and they can kick back as well. This is supported by the single jointed knee, which bends to about 90 degrees more or less. And there's a pin swivel at the ankle as well that allows the boot to rotate right the way around, but also it will hinge forwards and backwards a little bit if you persevere, which is pretty solid stuff. Now then, surprisingly, he also comes with a fair amount of accessories as well. Sadly, some of these seem to have eluded me for the time being, but nevertheless, you can see here what he comes with. Aside from his stand, of course, he also comes with his lightsaber, which you can see actually can remove the blades, and we'll look at that a little bit closer in a moment. But he also comes with his binoculars, and he has an alternate hand as well with the silver band on the gauntlet. I have to say, I absolutely love this lightsaber. There's, again, a ton of detail on it. It looks really screen accurate, and the paint apps are really nicely applied. We can see the red individual buttons on there. There's a nice paint wash running through it to make sure that we get to see the most out of this detailing, and all the grooves and bits and pieces of it are really highlighted, and it just looks fantastic. Now, you may notice in the center there is a single black band. That's because the lightsaber does split apart and is actually held together with magnets that allows it to put the two pieces together. Now, each end of this does have a black disc. Again, on one of mine, sadly, this has come loose, so you can see the magnet exposed. But you can put these together or have them individual, which I think is a really nice touch, really very unexpected, and it just looks fantastic. And as I said, the blades do come out, but again, I would recommend you be very careful with them because you don't want to snap the blade accidentally, so please be careful. But that's not all, because Darth Maul also speaks. He comes with 4 different sound effects, and if you press the button in the middle of his navel, you will hear these sounds.
Sparsely populated. If the trace was correct, I will find them quickly, Master. At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
All in all then, I don't really have any criticisms of this figure. I think possibly at worst you might say he's a little bit elongated in the waist area perhaps, but you know, that all depends on what position you're putting him in, because I think overall he looks pretty fantastic. I think for me, he gets top marks in pretty much every count. He's got great accessories. He is really well tailored. He's got nice features such as the sound effects. I think the sculpting is fantastic, and the paint apps are just magnificent. So overall, I can't really fault this figure, and I think if you're a fan of Darth Maul or you just like quarter scale figures, then you're gonna want this one in your collection, because I think he's really up there for me as one of the best I've ever seen. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a like, and remember to subscribe, as there'll be plenty more videos soon.